I am lying on the operating table. The steel under my back is cold, and the bright lights above me sting my eyes. I try to blink, but the light is too strong. My body feels heavy, as if the air itself is pressing me down. I already signed the paper. My shaky hand put my name on it, giving permission to remove my kidney. Everyone said it was my duty as a mother. Rebecca, my daughter-in-law, looked at me with sharp eyes and said, "It's your responsibility." Even Adam, my sick son, begged me with his weak voice. So I agreed. Now I am here, moments away from losing part of myself. I tell myself again and again, a mother must save her child. But my chest feels tight. My heart pounds too fast. The beeping of the heart monitor echoes in my ears. Beep, beep, beep. It sounds louder and louder, as if the machine is shouting my fear to the whole room. I can hear every detail around me. The clink of shiny tools being placed on a tray. The soft shuffle of shoes on the tile floor. The whisper of a nurse reminding the surgeon about the schedule. Nothing feels normal. Everything feels too sharp, too close. I close my eyes for a moment and think of Adam. I see him as a boy, running through the market with me, laughing, tugging at my skirt. I remember him promising, "Mom, one day I'll build you a big house." Now he is lying weak in another room, waiting for my kidney to save his life. That memory is the only thing stopping me from crying out. And then it happens. The operating room door slams open with a crash so loud it makes the instruments rattle. Cold air rushes inside. Doctors and nurses freeze in shock. In the doorway stands my 9-year-old grandson, Mario. His cheeks are red, his school shirt wrinkled, his little chest heaving as he gasps for breath, but his eyes are fierce. He holds an old phone in his small hand like it carries the weight of the world. "Grandma," he shouts, his voice trembling but clear. "I have to tell the truth about why Dad really needs your kidney." The room falls into silence. The beeping of the monitor is the only sound left. The surgeon raises his hand, signaling everyone to stop. What truth could a child reveal that stops a surgery? Home has never felt so quiet. The walls carry no laughter anymore. Only the low hum of a ceiling fan and the squeak of my husband Joe's wheelchair when I push him into the small backyard. He hasn't spoken much in years. Sometimes he blinks, sometimes he sighs, but mostly he sits with his gaze lost somewhere far away. The man who once carried sacks of potatoes on his back, who once danced with me in the kitchen, now breathes softly like a shadow of himself. Inside the house, Adam rests on a chair by the window. My oldest son, once tall and strong, now looks as pale as the curtains behind him. His shoulders are narrow, his cheeks hollow. Every movement costs him effort. He coughs and winces, then forces a smile to reassure me. But I can see it in his eyes, the fear, the weakness. Brandon, my younger son, is different. He rarely speaks, but when he does, his words weigh heavy. He comes home with his work clothes stained with grease and dust. He fixes the broken fan, changes the light bulbs, brings bread from the market. He watches Adam closely, his jaw tight, as if he's carrying anger he cannot put into words. I look at both of them and remember the years when they were little boys running through the alleys of Chicago. I used to sell vegetables at dawn, sew clothes until midnight. My hands became rough from work, my back bent from lifting. But I never complained. Every stitch I made, every coin I saved, was for them. I wanted my sons to have more than I did. That was my promise as a mother. Now, all of that promise has led me here, to this point where the doctors say Adam's only hope is my kidney. They tested everyone, but I am the only match. My heart ached when I heard it. My body trembled as the words echoed in my ears. "You are the only one who can save him." The consent form lay on the desk, white and cruel, demanding my signature. My hand shook as I picked up the pen. For a moment, I thought of Brandon. What would he do if I didn't survive the surgery? What would happen to Joe? To Mario, my sweet grandson? My throat felt dry, but I forced the pen across the page. My name appeared in shaky blue ink, binding me to the decision. When I looked up, Rebecca was watching me. Her arms were crossed, her lips pressed tight. There was no softness in her gaze, only a cold sharpness, like a blade. She nodded once, as if my choice was not an act of love, but an order she had given, and I had finally obeyed. "It's your duty," she said flatly. "You are his mother. Don't hesitate now." Her words stabbed deeper than the pen in my hand. I wanted to believe she was speaking out of love for Adam, but the tone was wrong. There was no gratitude, no fear, no warmth, only command. It felt less like family and more like a sentence passed by a judge. I turned my head toward Adam. His eyes were wet, his lips trembling. He reached out his thin hand and whispered, "Mom, thank you." That small whisper broke me. I smiled at him, but inside, a storm raged. I walked back to my room and sat at the old wooden table where I had mended clothes for years. The form was still in my hand. My signature looked final, unchangeable, like a heavy stone crushing my chest. My heart told me something was wrong, but my love for Adam drowned it out. That night, I tried to sleep, but my mind replayed Rebecca's words again and again. "It's your duty. Don't hesitate." They mixed with Adam's weak voice. "Mom, thank you." Between those two voices, I felt like I was being torn in half. I closed my eyes and prayed. I told myself this sacrifice was the highest act of a mother. Yet, deep inside, another question whispered, "If this is love, why does it feel like walking into death?" When Rebecca first entered our family, I thought she was a blessing. She walked into the house with soft steps and a polite smile. She carried trays of food, bowls of soup, and little reminders for Adam to take his medicine. She called me Mom in a sweet voice, and I wanted to believe she meant it. The neighbors praised her endlessly. "You're so lucky, Mrs. Jones," they would say. "Your daughter-in-law takes such good care of Adam. Not every mother-in-law has that fortune." I would smile, though inside, something didn't feel as perfect as they thought. Rebecca moved around the house like she had always lived there. She checked Adam's medicines every night. She set alarms on her phone to remind him when to swallow his pills. She brought fresh soup to his bed, helped him stand, tucked him in. From the outside, she was the perfect wife, dutiful, caring, reliable. But behind the smiles, I started to see cracks. One evening, as I stepped into the kitchen, I saw Rebecca quickly push a small white bottle into the back of the cabinet. The bottle had no label, no instructions, just a plain cap. I asked, "What is that?" She turned, startled, then laughed nervously. "Oh, just vitamins for Adam. Nothing important." Her laugh didn't ease me. It was sharp, fake, the kind of laugh that hides more than it shows. At night, I sometimes woke up to the faint sound of her voice. She stood in the backyard, whispering on the phone. I couldn't hear every word, but once, clear as a blade, I heard her say, "Don't worry, everything is going to plan." Plan? What plan? The words stayed in my chest like a stone. When I asked her later who she was talking to, she flinched, then smiled too quickly. "A friend from college. Nothing serious, Mom. You should rest. You work too hard." I tried to accept it, but her eyes didn't match her smile. Her eyes were cold, calculating, like she was measuring me and everyone else in the room. The strange things began to add up. More unlabeled bottles appeared in different drawers. Sometimes she washed Adam's dishes herself, never letting anyone else touch them. She grew sharper with her words, reminding me again and again that Adam's life depended on me. One afternoon, I saw her pouring medicine into Adam's glass. When she noticed me standing there, she blocked the glass with her hand and forced a smile. "Just his regular pills," she said, but my stomach twisted. Still, the neighbors kept praising her. "She's an angel," they said. "Your son is lucky." Maybe I wanted to believe them. Maybe I wanted to believe my son had chosen a good woman who truly cared for him. But every time Rebecca smiled, my heart whispered a warning. This is not real. She had the face of a perfect wife, the voice of a perfect daughter-in-law. But when I looked closely, the mask slipped. I saw the hardness behind her eyes, the quickness in her hands when she hid something, the sharpness in her tone when she thought no one was listening. And that mask, so carefully worn, made me wonder, is Rebecca truly a caring wife? Or is she hiding something darker? It was a Sunday afternoon when Mario came over with his little backpack. He dropped it by the door and ran straight to the floor where his toy cars waited. I was cooking rice, the steam fogging up the small kitchen windows. For a moment, the house felt almost normal. "Grandma," he said suddenly, not looking up from his cars. His voice was small but steady. "What if someone is making Dad sick?" The wooden spoon slipped from my hand and clattered into the pot. My heart froze. I turned to him, forcing a smile. "Why would you say that, Mario? Who told you such a thing?" He shrugged, pushing a car back and forth on the tiles. "I just hear things at home. Mom talks on the phone at night. She says things about medicine. I don't understand." I knelt beside him, brushing his hair back. His innocent eyes were wide, too wide for a 9-year-old carrying such a thought. "Your mom takes good care of your dad," I whispered. "Don't worry yourself with grown-up things." But inside, my chest burned. His words dug into me like claws. What could a child know that I had chosen not to see? That evening, Brandon stopped by after work. His shirt smelled of oil and sweat, his hands rough from the tools he carried. He fixed the squeaking kitchen door, then sat at the table, unusually quiet. "Mom," he said finally, lowering his voice, "something's wrong with Rebecca." I stiffened. "What do you mean?" He rubbed his forehead with his hand, his jaw tight. "I went into Adam's room to help him the other day. I saw bottles in the cabinet. No labels, no instructions. She hides them. I asked her, and she snapped at me. Said I was invading her space. I tried to wave it off. She's under stress. She's caring for Adam around the clock. Maybe she was just tired." Brandon shook his head. His eyes, so much like his father's when he was young, stared at me with firm warning. "No, Mom. She's giving him something. I don't trust her." "You shouldn't either." I felt the room tilt. First Mario, now Brandon, both whispering the same suspicion I had tried to bury. But what could I do? Adam needed Rebecca. Adam trusted her. If I accused her without proof, would that not destroy what little peace we had left? "Brandon," I said softly, "sometimes love makes us see shadows where there are none." He leaned forward, his voice sharp. "Or sometimes love makes us blind." His words cut me deeper than he knew. For days after, they rang in my ears. At night, I lay awake in bed, hearing Mario's small voice. "What if someone is making Dad sick?" Then Brandon's warning. "She's giving him something." And still, when morning came, I rose early, cooked, cleaned, and told myself the same thing. A mother must save her son. But two voices now pulled at me, one from a child, one from a grown man. Could both a child and a son be seeing what I refused to? The hospital always smells the same, bleach and fear. The halls are long and white, the lights too bright, the floors too clean. I carry a small container of soup for Adam, still hot, wrapped in an old towel so my hands don't burn. I tell myself it will give him strength. I tell myself I am doing my part. When I walk into Adam's room, Rebecca is already there. She stands close to the bed, her hair pulled back, her face calm. Adam lies on the pillow, eyes half open, skin pale like paper. He tries to smile when he sees me. "Mom," he whispers, "you're here." I set the soup on the side table and reach to touch his forehead. It is warm. My heart pinches. Rebecca picks up a glass of water. Her body blocks part of my view. Her hand moves quick and small, too quick. I catch a flash of something falling into the water, a tiny plop. The water barely ripples. "What was that?" I ask. She flinches, then turns with a practiced smile. "Just a supplement. The doctor said it will help his kidneys." "Which doctor?" I say. "Dr. Evans." She answers without blinking. He said it this morning. Don't worry, Mom. The word mom feels sour in my ear. My chest tightens. I look at the glass. The water looks normal. No color. No smell I can notice. But I saw her hand. I saw the quick drop. I saw the movement designed not to be seen. Give it to me, I say, reaching for the glass. She steps in closer, covering the rim with her palm. I'll do it, she says, light but firm. Adam trusts me. Adam looks from her to me, confused, tired. It's okay, Mom, he whispers. She has been taking care of me. I pull my hand back. The silence feels heavy. Rebecca lifts the glass to Adam's lips, and he drinks because he believes, because he is tired of fighting, because trust is easier than doubt when you can barely breathe. I watch every swallow like it is a countdown. When I leave the room, my hand shakes so much I have to hold the wall. At the nurse's station, I wait until the head nurse looks up. Is Dr. Evans available? I ask. It is urgent. A few minutes later, I am inside a small office with Dr. Evans. He is calm, serious, with deep lines by his eyes, as if he has spent his life looking into other people's pain. Doctor, I say, keeping my voice steady. Did you prescribe a new supplement for Adam today? He looks surprised, checks the chart on the computer, then shakes his head. No new medications or supplements today, Mrs. Jones. His treatment plan is unchanged. The floor shifts under me. Are you sure? Absolutely. Anything new must go through me, he says, frowning now. Why do you ask? I wet my lips. Because I saw something dropped into his water. His eyes narrow. By whom? I hesitate. Saying her name feels like tearing something that cannot be mended. By his wife. A long second passes. He leans back, thinking. I will make a note and alert the nurses, he says carefully. For now, please don't confront her directly. It could make things worse. He pauses. And Mrs. Jones, thank you for telling me. I nod. But my stomach twists. When I step out of the office, the hallway looks the same, white, bright, clean. But for me, everything is different. The clean light now feels like a lie. That evening, back at the house, Mario arrives, clutching his old backpack like it is a shield. He doesn't play with his toy cars. He sits at the table, waiting for me to sit, too. His eyes are big and serious. Grandma, he says, I found something. He pulls out an old phone with a cracked screen. The plastic is scratched, the edge is taped. He taps with his thumb, then hands it to me. Listen, he says, voice tight. I hold the phone to my ear. The sound is low at first, air, footsteps, and then a whisper. It is Rebecca's voice. I know it as well as my own now. After the transplant, the results will be perfect, she says. Don't worry, she won't dare refuse. My hands go cold. The phone slips slightly. I grab it tighter. Where did you get this? I whisper. From Mom's old phone, Mario says. It was in the bottom drawer. I heard her talking at night. I wanted to know. I look at him. This brave child carrying a truth too heavy for his small shoulders. I want to tell him he should be playing outside, not digging through shadows. I want to tell him he did wrong. But he saved me. He saved us. I kiss his forehead and pull him into my arms. You did the right thing, I say, even as tears sting my eyes. That night, I cannot eat. Every sound in the house feels sharp. The scrape of a chair, the tick of the clock, the soft wheeze of Joe's breath. I sit at the table, the old diary open but blank. My pen hovers but does not write. The words on the recording pour through me again and again. After the transplant, the results will be perfect. Which results? For whom? Why does my sacrifice matter to them more than my life? Near midnight, Brandon comes home and places a small envelope on the table. Mom, he says, his voice low, you need to see this. Inside the envelope are printed photos, grainy and dark, but clear enough to make my throat close. A parking lot at night. A car with its trunk open. Rebecca in a coat, her hair tied back, looking over her shoulder. In one photo, she holds a small plastic bag. In another, she passes the bag to a man in a black cap and jacket. In the next photo, he slips her a white envelope. Money bulges inside. I stare at the photos until they blur. When? I ask. Yesterday, Brandon says. I followed her after she left the hospital. She drove to the back lot near the storage units. He taps one photo. See this? That's the same man I've seen twice now. He never shows his face. My heart pounds. Did you hear them talk? He shakes his head. I stayed back. But this is enough to know something is wrong. I spread the photos across the table like a terrible card game. I think of the unlabeled bottles, the secret phone calls, the pill in the water, the recording in Mario's hands. Each piece by itself is a small cut. Together, they are a blade. Brandon pulls out his phone and shows me more pictures. Blurry zoom-ins of the plastic bag. Inside are small blue pills. My stomach turns. Mom, Brandon says, eyes fierce. We can't let her near Adam alone again. I nod. But my mind is spinning. If I accuse Rebecca now, she will deny it. She will cry and call me cruel. She will say I am jealous, controlling, old, confused. She will turn Adam against me in his weakness. And still, every hour that passes is another hour of danger. I hold Mario's cracked phone and press play again. The same whisper fills the room. After the transplant, the results will be perfect. Don't worry. She won't dare refuse. I picture forms with numbers, files with charts, people in other rooms waiting for data. I picture money in envelopes, cold hands counting bills. I picture my son as a step in someone else's ladder. Outside, a siren wails and fades. The house drops back into a deep, breathing quiet. I go to Joe, who sits in his chair, eyes half closed. I take his hand and tell him everything about the pill, the doctor's denial, the recording, the photos. I don't know how much he understands, but I feel his fingers press mine, slow and weak. It's enough. It is a small anchor in a storm. Before I sleep, I kneel on the floor beside my bed and pray, not for a miracle, but for clear eyes. If love is real, it should not require blindness. If duty is holy, it should not taste like poison. The next morning I wake with a hard truth sitting in my chest. I cannot pretend anymore. I cannot walk to that operating table with my eyes closed. The pieces are too many now. The blood too thin. The lies too loud. I fold the photos back into the envelope and tuck Mario's phone into my bag. I will carry these shadows with me, because sometimes the only way to find the light is to bring the darkness into the room and make everyone look at it. What results are worth a man's life? The evening air in my house felt heavy, like a storm pressing against the walls. I had just finished setting tea on the table when Rebecca arrived. Not alone this time. Behind her came her parents, Mr. Collins and Mrs. Peterson, stepping into my home as if they owned it. Mr. Collins carried himself with a stiff pride, his old suit pressed, but worn at the elbows. Mrs. Peterson wore a bright red dress, far too loud for such a grim visit. They sat themselves in the best chairs without being asked. Rebecca stood behind them, her arms crossed, her gaze steady on me. Mrs. Jones, Mr. Collins began, his voice rough and low. We all know what must be done. A mother cannot refuse her duty. You are the only match. The family depends on you. I pressed my hands together in my lap, the teacup untouched before me. His words were heavy, crushing. Mrs. Peterson leaned forward, her sharp eyes piercing mine. What will the neighbors say if you don't? They'll whisper that you let your son die, that you turned your back on him. A mother who refuses her child. What kind of woman is that? My throat tightened. I wanted to speak, to defend myself, but the words caught. Rebecca's voice cut in, smooth and sharp. Mom, you already signed the form. Don't hesitate now. Adam needs you. Without you, he will not survive. Her tone had no softness, no fear. It was a command, a verdict already delivered. From the sofa, Adam stirred. He was so thin, so pale, his hands trembling as he tried to lift them. His eyes, once bright, full of laughter, were now sunken, tired, desperate. He whispered, "Mom, please. I know you'll save me." That plea broke me. My heart clenched so hard I thought it might burst. I nodded, tears blurring my sight. "Yes, Adam. I'll do it. I'll save you." The room shifted instantly. Mrs. Peterson sighed with satisfaction, as if a battle had been won. Mr. Collins leaned back, nodding. Rebecca lowered her eyes, but I saw the tightness in her fists, the glint of triumph flashing behind her lashes. After they left, the house was too quiet. The ticking clock on the wall seemed louder than ever. I sat at the old wooden table, staring at the grain in the wood, feeling as though I had signed my own death sentence. That night, I pulled out an old box from under my bed. Inside were scraps of my life, faded wedding photos, yellowed letters, the rosary my mother gave me when I was young. I placed a blank sheet of paper on the table and lit a small oil lamp. My hand shook as I wrote, "If I do not return, this house goes to Brandon. My few jewels, the silver locket, the sewing machine, they belong to Mario. May these things remind them of me. May they know I gave all I had." The words blurred through my tears. My pen scratched against the paper, each stroke heavier than the last. I folded the will carefully, placed it in the box, and closed the lid. Joe sat in his wheelchair near the window, his thin hands resting on his lap. I wheeled him closer, holding his hand. His skin was cold, his eyes tired. For a moment, I thought he would say nothing as always. Then, barely, I felt a faint squeeze in his fingers. My heart broke and healed at the same time. He could not speak, but I knew what he was saying. "I am here. I know. I understand." I leaned down and kissed his hand. "Joe," I whispered, "I have to do this, don't I? For Adam?" My voice cracked. "Or am I walking into something I can't come back from?" The house was silent, the only sound the rain starting outside, tapping against the roof. His answer did not come in words. Only another weak squeeze, a drop of moisture sliding down his cheek. I sat there long into the night, staring at the will, listening to the storm. My body felt heavy, my heart torn. I told myself again and again, a mother must save her son. But underneath, another voice whispered, "Is this truly sacrifice? Or am I walking into someone's plan?" The morning of the surgery arrived too quickly. The streets outside were still dark, the lamps glowing weak yellow as the hospital ambulance took me in. My bag was small, only a change of clothes and a handkerchief from my wedding day. It felt strange to carry so little when I might be leaving so much behind. The hospital smelled sharper than usual, the sting of disinfectant filling my nose until it burned. The halls were quiet, but my heart was not. It beat so fast I could hear it in my ears. As the gurney rolled past a glass corridor, I froze. Through the window, I saw Rebecca. She wasn't alone. Beside her stood a man in a black jacket, a cap pulled low over his face. My body stiffened as I watched Rebecca slip an envelope into his hand. He nodded once, tucking it quickly into his pocket. Then, just as fast, he was gone. I tried to sit up, to shout, but the nurse pushed me gently back. "Relax, Mrs. Jones. You need to conserve your strength." Strength. As if I had any left. They wheeled me into the operating room. The walls were blinding white, the air cold. A bright lamp shone down on me, making me squint. Doctors in blue gowns moved around me, checking instruments, preparing trays. Their voices were calm, but I couldn't stop hearing Rebecca's whisper from Mario's phone. "After the transplant, the results will be perfect. She won't dare refuse." I wanted to scream, to rip out the foreline, to run, but my body was heavy with fear. Dr. Evans, the head surgeon, came close. His voice was steady. "Mrs. Jones, everything is ready. We will begin soon. Just relax, relax." The word felt like a cruel joke. The nurse held up the syringe filled with clear liquid, the anesthesia. My breath caught in my throat. This was it. In seconds, I would fall asleep, and when I woke up, I would no longer be whole. But then, the sound. The door slammed open, echoing like a thunderclap. Metal trays rattled, and one pair of forceps fell to the floor with a loud, metallic clang. Every head turned toward the door. There he was, Mario, my 9-year-old grandson, his school shirt wrinkled, his sneakers muddy, his small chest rising and falling as he gasped for breath. His eyes were wild, but bright with courage. "Grandma," he shouted, his voice cracking but clear. "Don't do it. I have to tell the truth about why Dad really needs your kidney." The room froze. The nurse holding the syringe stopped mid-motion. Dr. Evans raised a hand, signaling everyone to pause. The beeping of the heart monitor grew louder in the silence. Rebecca's scream pierced through the glass observation window. "Get him out of there. He's just a child. Don't listen to him." Her face was pale, her fists pounding the glass, but Mario didn't look at her. He clutched his old, cracked phone tightly in both hands. He stepped closer to me, his voice trembling but steady enough. "I have proof," he said. "You all need to hear this." Dr. Evans' sharp eyes studied him. "Go ahead, son. Play it." Mario's small thumb tapped the screen. The room filled with Rebecca's whisper, clear and cold. "After the transplant, the results will be perfect. Don't worry. She won't dare refuse." A wave of shock moved through the operating team. A nurse covered her mouth. Another stepped back, eyes wide. Dr. Evans' jaw tightened, his gaze snapping toward me. Then to the glass where Rebecca stood frozen. Rebecca pounded the window harder. "It's fake. He doesn't understand what he's saying. You can't believe this." Her voice cracked, more panic than anger now, but Mario wasn't finished. "There's more," he said, tears shining in his eyes. He pressed another file. A grainy video began playing on the small screen. The image was shaky but clear enough. Rebecca in a hospital parking lot, exchanging a bag of pills for an envelope of cash. Beside her, Mrs. Peterson's voice could be heard. "After this operation, we'll have enough data to sell the medicine abroad." Gasps filled the room. One of the younger doctors muttered, "Oh my God." I felt my heart hammer against my ribs. Everything I had feared, everything I had tried to ignore, was now laid bare in the middle of this sterile room. Dr. Evans' voice cut through the chaos, sharp as a knife. "Stop the surgery. Now." The nurse quickly lowered the syringe. Another turned off the surgical lights. The sound of machines being switched off filled the silence. Rebecca's fists hit the glass one last time before she turned away, her face crumbling. I looked at Mario, my brave little grandson, standing in the middle of that room with nothing but a broken phone and a trembling voice. My eyes filled with tears. In that moment, my chest still heavy, I realized he had saved not only me, but Adam too. But as I clutched Mario's hand, another question rose like a shadow. The proof had stopped the surgery. The doctors had listened. But Rebecca was still outside. Her lies were unraveling, yes. But would the truth of a child really be enough against the voice of a wife? The room still buzzed with shock. Nurses whispered to each other. Doctors exchanged looks. But no one moved until Dr. Evans lowered his hand from the air. "Stay calm," he said, his voice sharp. "We need to understand exactly what's happening here." Mario stood close to me, his little hand clutching my arm. His cracked phone was still playing Rebecca's voice. "After the transplant, the results will be perfect. Don't worry. She won't dare refuse." The words echoed against the cold white walls, impossible to deny. Just then, the operating room door swung open again. Brandon rushed in, his shirt still stained with grease from work, his eyes red and furious. He looked from me to Mario, then to Rebecca, who was pounding on the observation glass. "Mom," Brandon said out of breath. "I have proof too." He pulled out a folded envelope from his pocket and spilled photos onto the surgeon's tray. They slid across the steel surface like cards. Grainy pictures, but clear enough. Rebecca standing in a dark parking lot, a plastic bag in her hand. the man in the black jacket receiving it. The envelope of money passed back to her. Look at them. Brandon's voice cracked. She's been dealing behind our backs. That's not care. That's not love. That's poison. Gasps spread through the room. A nurse whispered. That's her, isn't it? That's the wife. Rebecca's face twisted in panic. She banged on the glass, her voice shrill. Lies. They're making this up. That's not me. You can't believe them. But even as she shouted, her fists trembled, and her eyes darted from the photos to the phone in Mario's hand. Mario stepped forward bravely, lifting the cracked phone again. There's more, he said, his voice shaking but clear. He tapped the screen. A second video played, the sound of cars in a parking lot. Rebecca's voice, low and rushed. After this operation, we'll have enough data to sell the medicine abroad. Then Mrs. Peterson's sharper tone followed. This money will change everything. The video ended in static. But the silence that followed was louder than any noise. The doctors froze. Nurses looked at each other in disbelief. Dr. Evans stared hard through the glass at Rebecca, who had gone pale, her hands slipping slowly from the window. Brandon slammed his palm against the tray, making the instruments rattle. You see? You all see it now. She poisoned my brother. She planned this whole thing, using my mother like a pawn. She never wanted to save Adam. She wanted her plan, her money, her results. Rebecca shook her head wildly, tears streaking her face. No, that's not true. I love my husband. I've cared for him day and night. You can't believe a child and some blurry photos. Her parents were visible behind the glass now, standing stiff, their faces pale. Mr. Collins said nothing, his lips pressed tight. Mrs. Peterson wrung her hands, her eyes darting around, searching for a way out, but neither came to her defense. Their silence was louder than Rebecca's screams. Dr. Evans stepped forward, his voice steady but cold. This is no longer a surgery. He looked around the room, his eyes sharp. This is a crime scene. The nurses froze, unsure. One asked, Doctor, should we call security? Dr. Evans ordered. Now, within minutes, 2 guards in dark uniforms entered. They opened the observation door, where Rebecca stood trembling. No, she cried, her voice breaking as they grabbed her arms. You don't understand. I was helping. This was research. We needed the data. You'll all regret this. Her words tumbled out like broken glass, cutting no one but herself. The guards held her firmly, her feet dragging against the floor as she fought. Dad, Mom, say something, she begged, reaching for her parents. But Mr. Collins and Mrs. Peterson only lowered their eyes. Their silence sealed her fate. The guards pulled her from the hall, her cries echoing down the corridor. It was for science, for money, for us. Her voice faded as the doors closed behind her. Inside the operating room, I sat frozen on the table, tears blurring my vision. Mario leaned against me, clutching my arm. Brandon stood tall, his chest heaving, his fists tight. Dr. Evans removed his surgical mask. His face looked tired, but his eyes were firm. He looked at me first, then at the team. This operation is canceled. Mrs. Jones will not donate her kidney. Adam's treatment will continue with dialysis and new medication. We'll protect both patient and donor until authorities investigate. The staff nodded slowly, the weight of the moment pressing into them. One nurse whispered, I can't believe it. She was killing him all along. I covered my face with my hands, sobbing quietly. Relief, horror, anger, all mixed until I could no longer separate them. My son had been betrayed by the woman he trusted most. I had been pushed to the edge of sacrifice, used as a pawn. Mario's small voice broke through my sobs. Grandma, it's over now. You're safe. I kissed his forehead, holding him tight, my tears falling onto his hair. Brandon came close and placed a hand on my shoulder. You're not alone, Mom. Not anymore. For the first time in months, I believed him. But even as Rebecca's footsteps faded, even as the truth filled the room like light breaking through. A dark question still lingered in my chest. The surgery was stopped. The lies were exposed. But Adam lay in the next room, his body weak, his future uncertain, without my kidney. Could he still be saved? The surgery never happened. Instead of the blinding lights and the cut of a scalpel, I was wheeled out of the operating room with Mario holding my hand. The hallways felt different this time. Still white, still sharp with disinfectant, but lighter, as if the truth had pushed away some of the weight pressing on my chest. Dr. Evans explained everything clearly. Adam will begin dialysis right away, he said. We'll combine it with new medication to support his kidneys. It will be difficult, but it's safer than the transplant under these circumstances. For the first time in weeks, I let myself breathe. Adam's treatments began the same day. Machines hummed. Tubes carried his blood in and out, cleaning what his body could not. He lay still, his skin pale, his lips dry. But his eyes began to show a spark again. Day by day, I sat by his bed, spooning him soup, adjusting his blanket, whispering prayers over him. Brandon came every evening, sometimes with bread, sometimes with fruit, always with that protective fire in his eyes. Mario sat on the chair by the bed, swinging his small legs, telling Adam stories from school. Slowly, life crept back into the room. One afternoon, as the sun streamed through the blinds, Adam reached for my hand. His fingers were still thin, but they held mine tightly. His eyes glistened with tears. "Mom," he whispered, his voice breaking. I was blind. I trusted Rebecca. I let her control everything. And I nearly let you give up your life because of her lies. I'm sorry. I should have protected you. Tears rolled down my cheeks, but I smiled through them. I stroked his hair like I used to when he was a little boy. "Son," I said softly, "the only thing that matters is that you're here. We can rebuild everything else." Brandon, standing in the corner, stepped closer. He placed his rough, grease-stained hand on my shoulder. "Mom," he said, his voice steady but emotional, "from now on, I'm here for you. I'll protect you. No one will use you again." I looked at him, my younger son who had seen the truth long before I dared to. My heart swelled with pride and sorrow all at once. "You already have, Brandon," I whispered. "You and Mario both saved me." Mario grinned shyly from his chair, his cheeks red. "Grandma, I just told the truth." I pulled him into my arms, hugging him tightly. "No, my boy, you were braver than all of us. You shouted the truth when everyone else was silent. That makes you a hero." News of Rebecca's arrest spread quickly. Newspapers splashed it across their front pages. Drug testing ring exposed at local hospital. Reports detailed how Rebecca, her parents, and several accomplices had been working with illegal networks, using Adam's illness and my kidney donation as cover to gather results for their experiments. Neighbors who once praised Rebecca shook their heads in disbelief. "We never suspected," they whispered. "She seemed so perfect." But masks always slip eventually. At home, the silence was different now. It wasn't heavy with fear anymore. It was the kind of silence that lets you rest. Joe, my husband, sat in his wheelchair by the window as always. When I told him everything, how Mario burst into the operating room, how Brandon showed the photos, how Rebecca was taken away, tears rolled down his cheeks. His hand trembled in mine, squeezing weakly. It was the first time in years I had seen him react with such emotion. That night, I opened my old diary and wrote, "Blood alone does not make a family. Truth does. Courage does." Rebecca had my son's blood, but she had no loyalty, no love. It was Mario, my grandson, who carried truth in his small hands. It was Brandon, my younger son, who carried strength in his silence. And it was Adam, despite his weakness, who carried hope that love could still win. Together, they are my family. That is enough. I closed the diary and sat by the window. The moonlight touched the old backyard where Mario sometimes played with his cars. For the first time in months, I felt peace, but one thought stayed with me. I had nearly sacrificed myself, not for love, but for a lie. I had walked blind into the trap of duty. If not for Mario and Brandon, I would not be here to tell this story. So now, I want to ask you, yes, you watching this right now, what would you do if you were in my place? Would you give your life out of duty, even if your heart whispered that something was wrong? Or would you fight to uncover the truth? No matter how painful, write your answer in the comments. Your voice matters, because sometimes one voice, just like Mario's, can change everything. If this story touched you, if it made you think about family, betrayal, and courage, please give this video a like, share it with someone who might need to hear it, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel, because there are more stories, real stories, heavy with truth and lessons, that I want to share with you. In the end, I learned this. Blood can tie people together, but only truth can keep them there. And truth, no matter how small or who it comes from, even a 9-year-old boy, has the power to save lives.